everybody, it's so good to see you again. I'm so glad you came back so we can continue on our Tales with Tales adventure. We're working through book 1 of the 3 Tales of My Father's Dragon series. Where we left off was the beginning of chapter 6. You ready? Let's go. Chapter 6. My father meets a rhinoceros. My father soon found a trail leading away from the clearing. All sorts of animals might be using it too, but he decided to follow the trail no matter what he met because it might lead to the dragon. He kept a sharp lookout in front and behind and went on. Just as he was feeling quite safe, he came around a curve right behind the 2 wild boars. One of them was saying to the other, "Did you know that the tortoises thought they saw Monkey carrying his sick grandmother to the doctor's last night? But Monkey's grandmother died a week ago, so they must have seen something else. I wonder what it was." "I told you that there was an invasion afoot," said the other boar, "and I intend to find out what it is. I simply can't stand invasions." "Me neither," said a tiny little voice. Me neither." And my father knew that the mouse was there too. "Well," said the first boar, "you search up the trail on this way to the dragon. I'll go back down the other way through the big clearing, and we'll send Mouse to watch the ocean rocks in case the invasion should decide to go away before we find it." My father hid behind a mahogany tree just in time, and the first boar walked right past him. My father waited for the other boar to get a head start on him, but he didn't wait very long because he knew that when the first boar saw the tigers chewing gum in the clearing, he'd be even more suspicious. Soon the trail crossed a little brook, and my father, who by this time was very thirsty, stopped to get a drink of water. He still had on his rubber boots, so he waded into a little pool of water and was stooping down when something quite sharp picked him up by the seat of the pants and shook him very hard. "Don't you know that's my private weeping pool?" said a deep, angry voice. My father couldn't see who was talking because he was hanging in the air right over the pool, but he said, "Oh no, I am so sorry. I didn't know that everybody had a private weeping pool." "Everybody doesn't," said the angry voice, "but I do, because I have such a big thing to weep about, and I drown everybody I find using my weeping pool." With that, the animal tossed my father up and down over the water. "What is it that you weep about so much?" asked my father, trying to get his breath, and he thought over all the things he had in his pack. "Oh, I have many things to weep about, but the biggest thing is the color of my tusk." My father squirmed every which way to see the tusk, but it was through the seat of his pants, where he couldn't possibly see it. "When I was a young rhinoceros, my tusk was pearly white," said the animal, and then my father knew he was hanging by the seat of his pants from a rhinoceros's tusk. "But it has turned a nasty yellow-gray in my old age, and I find it very ugly. You see, everything else about me is ugly. But when I had a beautiful tusk, I didn't worry so much about the rest. Now that my tusk is ugly too, I can't sleep nights just thinking about how completely ugly I am, and I weep all the time. But why should I be telling you these things? I caught you using my pool, and now I'm going to drown you." "Oh, wait a minute, Rhinoceros," said my father. "I have some things that will make your tusk all white and beautiful again. Just let me down and I'll give them to you." The rhinoceros said, "You do? I can hardly believe it. Why, I'm so excited." He put my father down and danced around in a circle while my father got out the tube of toothpaste and the toothbrush. "Now," said my father, "just move your tusk a little nearer, please, and I'll show you how to begin." My father wet the brush in the pool, squeezed on a dab of toothpaste, and scrubbed very hard in one tiny spot. Then he told the rhinoceros to wash it off, and when the pool was calm again, he told the rhinoceros to look in the water and see how white the little spot was. It was hard to see in the dim light of the jungle, but sure enough, the spot shone pearly white just like new. The rhinoceros was so pleased that he grabbed the toothbrush and began scrubbing violently, forgetting all about my father. Just then, my father heard hoofsteps, and he jumped behind the rhinoceros. It was the boar coming back from the big clearing where the tigers were chewing gum. The boar looked at the rhinoceros, and at the toothbrush, and at the tube of toothpaste, and then he scratched his ear on a tree. "Tell me, rhinoceros," he said, "where did you get that fine tube of toothpaste and that toothbrush?" "Too busy," said the rhinoceros, and went on brushing as hard as he could. The boar sniffed angrily and trotted down the trail toward the dragon, muttering to himself, "Very suspicious. Tigers too busy chewing gum. Rhinoceros too busy brushing his tusk. Must get a hold of that invasion. Don't like it one bit, not one bit. It's upsetting everybody terribly. Wonder what it's doing here anyway." Chapter 7. My Father Meets a Lion. My father waved goodbye to the rhinoceros, who was much too busy to notice, got a drink farther down the brook, and waded back to the trail. He hadn't gone very far when he heard an angry animal roaring. "Dang blast it! I told you not to go blackberrying yesterday. Won't you ever learn? What will your mother say?" My father crept along and peered into a small clearing just ahead. A lion was prancing about, clawing at his mane, which was all snarled and full of blackberry twigs. The more he clawed, the worse it became, and the madder he grew, and the more he yelled at himself. Because it was himself he was yelling at all the time. My father could see that the trail went through the clearing, so he decided to crawl around the edge in the underbrush and not disturb the lion. He crawled, and the yelling grew louder and louder. Just as he was about to reach the trail on the other side, the yelling suddenly stopped. My father looked around and saw the lion glaring at him. The lion charged and skidded to a stop a few inches away. "Who are you?" the lion yelled at my father. "My name is Elmer Elevator. Where do you think you are going?" "I'm going home," said my father. "That's what you think," said the lion. "Ordinarily, I'd save you for afternoon tea, but I happen to be upset enough and hungry enough to eat you right now." And he picked up my father in his front paws to feel how fat he was. My father said, "Oh, please, lion, before you eat me, tell me why you are so particularly upset today." "It's my mane," said the lion, as he was figuring out how many bites a little boy would make. "You see what a dreadful mess it is, and I don't seem to be able to do anything about it. My mother is coming over on the dragon this afternoon, and if she sees me this way, I'm afraid she'll stop my allowance. She can't stand messy manes, but I'm going to eat you now, so it won't make any difference to you." "Oh, wait a minute," said my father, "and I'll give you just the things you need to make your mane all tidy and beautiful. I have them here in my pack." "You do?" said the lion. "Well, give them to me, and perhaps I'll save you for afternoon tea after all." And he put my father down on the ground. My father opened the pack and took out the comb and the brush and the 7 hair ribbons of different colors. "Look," he said, "I'll show you what to do in your forelock, where you can watch me. First, you brush a while, and then you comb, and then you brush again until all the twigs and snarls are gone. Then you divide it up in 3 and braid it like this and tie a ribbon around the end." As my father was doing this, the lion watched very carefully and began to look much happier. When my father tied on the ribbon, he was all smiles. "Oh, that's wonderful, really wonderful," said the lion. "Let me have the comb and the brush and see if I can do it." So my father gave him the comb and brush, and the lion began busily grooming his mane. As a matter of fact, he was so busy that he didn't even know when my father left. Chapter 8. My father meets a gorilla. My father was very hungry, so he sat down under a baby banyan tree on the side of the trail and ate 4 tangerines. He wanted to eat 8 or 10, but he had only 13 left, and it might be a long time before he could get more. He packed away all the peels and was about to get up when he heard the familiar voices of the boars. I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen them with my own eyes, but wait and see for yourself. All the tigers are sitting around chewing gum to beat the band. Old Rhinoceros is so busy brushing his tusk that he doesn't even look around to see who's going by. And they're all so busy they won't even talk to me. Horse feathers, said the other boar, now very close to my father. They'll talk to me. I'm going to get to the bottom of this if it's the last thing I do. The voices passed by my father and went around a curve, and he hurried on because he knew how much more upset the boars would be when they saw the lion's mane tied up in hair ribbons. Before long, my father came to a crossroads, and he stopped to read the signs. Straight ahead, an arrow pointed to the beginning of the river. To the left, the ocean rocks, and to the right, to the Dragon Ferry. My father was reading all these signs when he heard paw steps and ducked behind the signpost. A beautiful lioness paraded past and turned down toward the clearings. Although she could have seen my father if she had bothered to glance at the post, she was much too occupied looking dignified to see anything but the tip of her own nose. It was the lion's mother, of course, and that, thought my father, must mean that the dragon was on this side of the river. He hurried on, but it was farther away than he had judged. He finally came to the riverbank in the late afternoon and looked all around. But there was no dragon anywhere in sight. He must have gone back to the other side. My father sat down under the palm tree and was trying to have a good idea when something big and black and hairy jumped out of the tree and landed with a loud crash at his feet. "Well?" said a huge voice. "Well, what?" said my father, for which he was very sorry when he looked up and discovered he was talking to an enormous and very fierce gorilla. "Well, explain yourself," said the gorilla. "I'll give you till 10 to tell me your name, business, your age, and what's in that pack." And he began counting to 10 as fast as he could. My father didn't even have time to say Elmer Elevator Explorer before the gorilla interrupted. "Too slow. I'll twist your arms the way I twist that dragon's wings, and then we'll see if you can't hurry up a bit." He grabbed my father's arms, one in each fist, and was just about to twist them when suddenly he let go and began scratching at his chest with both hands. "Blast those fleas," he raged. "They won't give you a moment's peace, and the worst of it is that you can't even get a good look at them. Rosie, Rhoda, Rachel, Ruthie, Ruby, Roberta, come here and get rid of this flea on my chest. It's driving me crazy." 6 little monkeys tumbled out of the palm tree, dashed to the gorilla, and began combing the hair on his chest. "Well," said the gorilla, "it's still there." We're looking, said the 6 little monkeys, "but they're awfully hard to see, you know." "I know," said the gorilla, "but hurry. I've got work to do." And he winked at my father. "Oh, gorilla," said my father, "in my knapsack I have 6 magnifying glasses. They'd be just the thing for hunting fleas." My father unpacked them and gave 1 to Rosie, 1 to Rhoda, 1 to Rachel, 1 to Ruthie, 1 to Ruby, and 1 to Roberta. "Why, they're miraculous," said the 6 little monkeys. "It's easy to see the fleas now, only there are hundreds of them." And they went on hunting frantically. A moment later, many more monkeys appeared out of a nearby clump of mangroves and began crowding around to get a look at the fleas through the magnifying glasses. They completely surrounded the gorilla and he could not see my father, nor did he remember to twist his arms. Wow! Elmer was able to use his smarts and the items in his backpack to outwit 3 animals. Next week, we'll finish up our book and we'll find out how Elmer rescues the baby dragon. As always, you can go to our website, ahplibrary.org, to sign up to receive emails telling you when the next video is ready. Anora and I can't wait to see you next time.